Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call.
Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. My name is Melissa Deely, and I am your host. And today I want to invite you to just take a breath with me for a moment. Yes. Inhale deeply and exhale so you can hear the air leaving your body. I'm sure until this point, it's been a busy day. And let's leave all of that behind and just arrive here. Because today I am opening a conversation that has the potential to change how you see healing in a very deep way. Because for decades, society has taught one primary path when it comes to emotional healing: to talk about it, process it, revisit it, explain it again and again and again. And for many people, that has felt exhausting. For some, it has even felt like the pain stays alive. So today we are exploring a powerful question. What if healing trauma didn't require talking about it at all? Just let that land for a moment. Because if that were true, everything would change. You see, most of us grew up believing that healing requires visiting the past path, talking about the event, explaining what happened, and trying to understand why it happened. And don't get me wrong, there is value in awareness that comes from talking about it. Awareness brings things into our consciousness. It allows us to see patterns. It gives us language for our experiences. However, awareness alone does not always create emotional release. And this is where we begin to understand something deeper. You see, your unconscious mind stores every memory that you have ever experienced in your life without judgment. Every moment, every emotion, every learning. Your unconscious mind is like a vast internal library holding your entire life. I think of it as if there's a filing cabinet with a really, really, really long drawer, and everything is filed, and the unconscious mind orders it as well, so that it can be made available to the conscious mind later as needed. And yet the unconscious mind operates differently to the conscious mind. It works through imagery, through emotion, through experience. And one of its most fascinating characteristics is this: It does not distinguish between something that is happening now, something remembered from your past, or something vividly imagined for your future. So when a person sits down and begins to talk about a painful experience, the unconscious mind activates the same emotional response as if you were living it in the now. The nervous system fires, the body responds, and that experience is felt yet again. And this is why so many people leave their therapy sessions feeling heavy or drained or simply emotionally exhausted. My business partner, who's now a retired cop and was mandated to go to talk therapy because as a cop, they see a lot. And she didn't want to talk about it. However, she was mandated to go. And her analogy is that she felt she'd been run over by a truck every time she left her therapy session. And that is because her nervous system just relived the event that she was talking about. And that is exactly what is happening to you. Your nervous system relives the event as if it was happening in the now. So let's go back into some history here, because when I learned this, it absolutely blew my mind. And it is likely something that you have never heard either. And that is that the idea of talking through your trauma was not always the primary method of healing it. In fact, early psychology began in a very different place. Early pioneers were fascinated by the use of hypnosis, and they were exploring the power of your unconscious mind. One of those very well-known figures, Sigmund Freud, originally studied hypnosis. He studied at the Nancy School of Hypnosis in France. He believed in the power of working directly with the deeper mind. And then something shifted. You see, Freud struggled with getting consistent results using hypnosis. And that is because historical accounts describe that he had severe dental issues from chewing cocoa leaves, which then resulted in him getting poorly fitted wooden dentures. And that meant that his speech became difficult to understand. And when guiding someone through a hypnotic state, they must be able to understand what you're saying. Clarity of language matters. And he was mumbling. They couldn't understand him, and therefore they couldn't get into a deep hypnotic state. Therefore, he was unsuccessful in practicing hypnosis with clients, all because of that nasty habit of chewing the leaves of cocaine plants. So instead of continuing to refine hypnosis, he changed direction, knowing that he had difficulty enunciating clearly. And he created a whole new model that he said was not going to be for the poor and was going to require a minimum of 300 sessions. A model where the client did the talking and the therapist listened, and the sessions would be repeated over long periods of time. He would have clients come to his office and sit in a chair, very often facing away from him, because wooden teeth and saliva result in very poor breath. And to save his clients having to look at him and smell his terrible breath, he had them face away from him and talk. and talk some more and keep talking more. And over time, this became what we now know as talk therapy. And slowly, over generations, a belief formed that healing requires talking about the problem repeatedly. That healing requires visiting the past. That healing requires retelling the story. And today, we are in a time where that belief is now being questioned because we have greater understanding about the power of our unconscious mind. And I'm not saying talk therapy doesn't have a place. Absolutely, it has a place. It is excellent for bringing things to awareness. And at that point, you get to choose, now that I know what I'm struggling with, and I've brought it from my unconscious, which is outside my awareness, into my conscious mind, and now have awareness of it. Now, what is the right tool for the job to release this from my body? Talking about it over and over again doesn't actually release it from the physical body. So let's go deeper into what is actually happening inside the body when trauma is revisited and talked about. Because this is where things begin to make sense. When a painful memory is brought up, the unconscious mind activates that memory as if it is happening again. Remember, it doesn't know the difference between what's happening in the now, a remembered memory, or a vivid imagination of something in the future. Regardless, the nervous system fires, heart rate increases, breathing changes, stress hormones rise. The body goes back into the emotional state connected to that experience. And this is not something people are imagining. This is literally how the mind-body system is designed. The unconscious mind is protecting you. It is responding to what it perceives as real. So when someone talks about trauma repeatedly, the system continues to activate that emotional response, which is exhausting. And over time, something else begins to happen as well. The neurology of that experience strengthens. We're not releasing it, we're deepening it in our neurology. Every time that pathway is activated, it becomes easier for the brain to go there again. Imagine walking through a forest. The first time, the path is barely visible. You walk it again and again and again, and eventually it becomes a well-worn trail. This is how neural pathways work. We teach this in our trainings. When we create new neural pathways for our students, we let them know it's a bunny trail. It's just a little bunny trail. And now we have to take action in order to make that bunny trail become a 2-lane road, a 4-lane road, and eventually an 8-lane highway. The more we speak about it, the more we deepen that neural pathway. And this is why many people say, I understand my trauma. I've talked about it, and I still feel it because the emotional charge has not been released from the body. It has been continuously revisited. And remember, I said the unconscious mind is always protecting you. It is also always looking out for you. And it knows when you are ready to heal your trauma. It suppresses it in the moment. If in the moment it feels that it is not safe for you to be able to even process it. Think of first responders that are going into horrific accidents. They have to run into danger, which is obviously against all of their unconscious programming. We want to stay away from danger to be safe, except they are trained to do this. And so the unconscious mind has to suppress all of their innate response so that they can follow their training and run into the danger and help whomever they're helping and get away from that. And that's traumatic for them, very traumatic. And so in the moment, the unconscious mind suppresses all of it because they just have to follow their training. They can't get all in their emotions. That could be dangerous for them. A firefighter has to run into the fire. He can't be in all his emotions and fear, etc., and like pause and stop. And he has to go and just follow the training and get the job done and get out. And so the unconscious mind suppresses what it needs to suppress in the moment. And then when it deems that you are safe and you are ready to release it, that is when it brings up a memory for you, a trigger. And again, in this world, we're often taught to avoid the triggers. The triggers are bad. Put the hand up. I don't want to deal with it. In this work, we celebrate the triggers because that is your unconscious mind saying, you are ready to release this. Let's release it. You are safe. Let's release it from your body. And this is where this work is so powerful. Because instead of just talking about it and having the nervous system be fired over and over again, revisiting the trauma, we now have a modality that allows us to release it from the body once and for all. And that is timeline therapy. So just stop for a moment and imagine that. Imagine that instead of revisiting the story, you work directly with your unconscious mind. The part of you that already knows what happened, when it happened, why it happened, what it meant, and more importantly, what you needed to learn from it. Because remember, it stores all of your memories. And here is a powerful perspective. Every experience carries a learning. Another way of saying that is everything is happening for you so you can learn something. Even the most difficult things in your life. Just think about them. Look back. You know you learned something. You might even have healed enough to be able to look back at it with gratitude, knowing that if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't have learned that. I look back at being let go from my 24-year career in the corporate world, being given an hour's notice to clear out my desk. I look back at that with gratitude because if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have got into this line of work, which I love. And I'm fulfilling my mission, my passion. I was too comfortable there. I wasn't learning. I wasn't growing anymore. And the universe just gave me the kick in the butt to get out. Was it painful in the moment? Absolutely. However, now I know exactly why that happened for me and the path and all the learning that I have done in the last 10 plus years to get to where I'm at today. Every experience carries a learning, even the most difficult ones. And once that learning is fully received, the emotional charge no longer serves a purpose. It isn't needed anymore. And this is where timeline therapy becomes so powerful. Because in a timeline therapy session, you are guided to access your internal timeline of memories, rise above the events, observe them from a place of wisdom, and your unconscious mind extracts the learnings. And once the learnings become clear, the emotional charge releases. We do this for 7 negative emotions in every session, starting with anger, then sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, rage, and shame. There's no retelling required, no reliving required, no repeating the story. And the responses are incredible. It is such an honor to guide people through these sessions and train students in becoming practitioners to use this for themselves and others. One student said, "Holy F, I feel like a whole new person after their timeline therapy clinic." Another said, "My mind is quiet. The chattering has stopped. I normally can't get to this kind of a feeling unless I've meditated for 3 hours." Another student described it like this: "It feels like I had the dishwasher, washing machine, and dryer all running in my head at the same time. And now everything is turned off and it's peaceful." Just take that in for a moment. A quiet mind, a calm nervous system, a sense of peace that you may not have felt in years. Now let's expand this beyond the individual, because this work not only impacts one person, it creates a ripple effect. When someone releases their emotional trauma, their relationships change. The way they communicate changes. The way they show up in the world changes. The way they respond to stress changes. The way they show up as a parent changes. The way they lead changes. And suddenly, the environment around them begins to shift because they are no longer reacting from old emotional patterns. They are responding from presence, from clarity, from calm. And this is why we believe something very deeply. If every person experienced just one timeline therapy session, the world would look very different. There would be less reactivity, less emotional pain, more understanding, more peace. And here is something else that is important to understand and think about. We take care of our personal hygiene every day. We brush our teeth, we shower, we exercise. Yet emotional hygiene is rarely part of our daily life. And life continues to happen. Experiences accumulate, stress builds, emotions stack over time. Timeline therapy can become a form of emotional cleanup. We recommend a simple rhythm of learning this and completing a monthly reset, because life does happen. And that allows us to release emotional buildup, clear our limiting beliefs, realign our internal state. Just like we care for the body, we can care for the emotional system. Too often, we only care for the physical body and ignore the rest. That is not the answer to long-term health. Remember, we have 4 bodies: a spiritual body, a mental body, an emotional body, and a physical body. And by the time symptoms show up in the physical body, they've already moved through the other 3 bodies. And so we start the healing process in the physical body, and we need to clear it in the emotional body. Releasing all that stuff down in negative emotion we've been carrying like a bag of bricks. Releasing and clearing the mental body by releasing the limiting beliefs. And when we clear those 2 bodies and we're healing the physical body, we gain clarity as to who we are, our mission, how we want to show up, who we want to be, and we get into alignment with our spiritual body. And at that point, many people realize that the job they've been going to that has been sucking their soul for years is no longer what they want to be doing. They don't have to be tied to it just because it pays the bills. That when we get into alignment in all 4 bodies, we can actually create a powerful income stream, fulfilling our mission and our soul each and every day. If you want to dive more into the 4 bodies and the 3 minds, check out my other podcast that I do with my business partner, Billy Adme. The podcast is called Clear the Screen. And in episode 28, which just came out yesterday, we dive into the three minds and the four bodies, and you can learn more on that specific topic in that podcast. And if something in this conversation today is resonating with you, if you feel a sense of curiosity, if part of you is thinking there has to be another way, then this may be something worth exploring. Timeline therapy offers a path where you do not need to retell painful stories. You do not need to relive the past. You work directly with the unconscious mind, your unconscious mind, and allow it to do what it was designed to do: learn, release, and restore balance. Whether this is for your own healing or for your family, or even something you feel called to share with others, this work has the potential to create profound change. And now we are running a training specifically for timeline therapy. We've called it Karma Code. It is a 3-day program taught live on Zoom, and you can be trained to become a practitioner of timeline therapy, to use this powerful healing modality for yourself and for others if you choose. During the training, you get to experience a timeline therapy clinic as both practitioner and client and have your own breakthrough. Because when you release those 7 negative emotions and a couple of limiting beliefs, you too will feel different and show up differently in the world. And instead of paying session by session like talk therapy, we empower you to do this for yourself through the training and then join our community and swap sessions with other practitioners in the community so you never have to pay again for a session. We see this as empowering. We are all about empowerment. Here we are teaching you how to fish for the rest of your life, not just giving you a fish so you can eat for one day. So as you move through your day today, just notice something. Notice your internal state. Notice your thoughts. Notice your emotional patterns. And simply ask yourself, what would it feel like if my mind were quiet? What would it feel like to release what I no longer need? Because your unconscious mind already knows how. And if this resonates, click on the link in the show notes to learn more about Karma Code and releasing this for yourself once and for all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being open to learning and to listening to all of the podcasts on the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast show. I know you're here because you care about your health, and we're not just talking about physical health. We're talking about mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, all of it. Thank you for being here to learn, and thank you for sharing this with someone else that you know this can benefit. I am pleased to share with you a new training called Karma Code Timeline Therapy Practitioner Certification. This training is a powerful 3-day live on Zoom session teaching you how to help others in clearing all of their stuffed down emotion of anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, rage, and shame, without them having to talk about any of the situations that ever caused the root of that anger, and release it from the cells in their body and have them feeling light. And also to release all of the BS stories running around in our head of being unlovable, unworthy, not good enough, powerless, etc., etc. And get rid of all of that chatter and allow them to have peace and quiet in their head. This training is transformational for your clients and for you, because during the training, you get to experience it both as a practitioner and a client and release all of that garbage for yourself and clear out your emotional body, your mental body, and keep them clear so that all of that stuffed down emotion isn't causing dis-ease later in your life. check out the show notes for the link. Our first training is happening in 2026.